A few things I can do to enhance the appearance of this plain looking form here is to add an image, let's say over to the right hand side of these fields, maybe put in a title up at the top that says book sales, and then down below maybe drawing a rectangle around these 6 fields to offset it against the other fields to show how important it is to keep track of the total sold, the retail and wholesale prices. To get started, I'm going to come up here and right click on the Form tab and change it from Form View to Design View. First thing I want to show you is how to group fields together. There may be times where you select the same fields over and over again, or groups of fields, to apply formatting to them or to move them. Instead of selecting them over and over again, just go ahead and shift click on them once to select them all, and then come up here to the Arrange tab to the Control Layout group and click on the Group button. Once it's grouped, when you click off in a blank area and you come back to it and you click on any one of their labels or text boxes, it selects all of them. They're grouped. That way I can apply formatting to the group all at once, or click and drag one of the fields that brings the whole group over. Let me hit the Undo button. To ungroup it, just go back to the Control Layout group and then click on the Ungroup button. Click off in a blank area. When I click back on one of the labels or text boxes, it just selects that and not all the others because it's ungrouped. Now I want to be able to offset these 6 fields down below by drawing a rectangle around them. And to do that, I can come up here and click on the Design tab to the Controls group and then click on this rectangle button here, move my mouse over the grid, and I get a little cross replacing my pointer, and that means that when I start clicking and dragging, it's going to create a box or a rectangle depending upon how I drag. Now I want to drag it around these 6 fields. I don't want to start right on top of the label because I don't want the rectangle running right through it. So I'll go up just a little bit, up and to the left, click and drag, and you can see the outline of my rectangle taking shape. Let go, and there it is. Now it's cut off here at the bottom of the grid, so all I have to do is hover over the bottom of the grid, and then when I get the 2-way up and down arrow, click and drag to stretch the grid out just a little bit, and then I can see my box. Click off in a blank area, and you can see the thin blue border of my rectangle. Now if I want to be able to enhance that, because it's kind of boring, maybe change the color, add a special effect, go ahead and click on the rectangle. Now if you have problems, let me click off in a blank area, selecting any one of the objects or text boxes or labels within your grid, and this also works in the design view of your reports. Like for example, I can't seem to quite get my mouse to get right on that thin line there, it's so tiny. I can bring up the property sheet, and there are several ways you can bring up your property sheets in the design view here. You can either come up here in the Tools group from the Design tab and click on Property Sheet, or you can right click, go to Properties, you can double click here in the blue area. It brings up the property sheet. You can double click on images, you can double click on the form selection button here, it'll bring it up. In any case, go ahead and double click bringing it up, and then up here where it says selection type, right now the form is selected. If I want to be able to select this rectangle or box, then what I want to do is click on the selection drop down arrow and scroll through until I find, well, there it is, box. Okay, box 14. When I click on it, it selects it, so I got it right. Great. That way I don't have to click off and try to click right on the thin line, but I'm talented, so I'll go ahead and do it. Close out of the property sheet here. Now to add some special effects, up here in the Controls group, hover over this button. It's called the Special Effects button. Click on its drop down arrow. We can do a sunken. Click off in a blank area. Look how it sinks in. Click on the border again. Let's change that drop down arrow to shadowed. Click off, and it's got a shadow. Looks like it's popping out at you. Select it again. Let me change the color. Come to the Controls group. There's the line color. Click on the drop down arrow, and the line that creates that rectangle, I'll change it to red's fine. Click off. Looks good. Next I want to be able to add a title or a label to my form here. Now I could easily just click and drag all these fields down below and create a little label up at the top, but forms do have headers and footer sections that will separate your details here that I have as my main form from the top or bottom part of my form, again called headers and footers. So to add those sections, I can come up here, click on the Arrange tab, go over to the Show Hide group, and click on the form header / footer. When I click on it, there we go. I got my header section and my footer section. Now I need a little bit more room to add my title or my label here to the form, so I can either do it one of 2 ways. I can either hover over the top part of the detail bar till I get that 2-way up and down arrow, in which case I can click and drag and push it down, or I can double click on the form header bar really quick to bring up the property sheet, and you can see the height of the form header section is about 1/2 inch. I can delete that and type in 2 and hit enter, and it pops open to 2 inches. That should be enough room. I'm going to go ahead and close out of here. Now there's 2 ways I can add a title or a label. Probably the quickest way is to come up here to the Design tab, to the Controls group, and clicking on this button here. It's called the title. When I click on it, boom, it automatically adds the title or the name of the form here, which is Form Sales and Profits. And if that's what I want, then click off and I'm good to go. But if I want to change it, just click in it and of course change it to Book Source, hit Enter. And then if I want to do a best fit, because I don't want this box stretched all the way out here, I can do it one of two ways. Come up here on the Arrange tab to the Size group and then click on the Size to Fit. It automatically shrinks the box to around the text. Or let me hit Undo and hover over the right middle handle until I get that two-way arrow pointing in opposite directions. Double click real fast and it does a best fit as well. Back to my Design tab. Now again, that's one way you can do it, by clicking on this to add the title. When I click on it again, it selects the title box. Click off in a blank area. If I click on it and delete it, I can add it another way. I can just come up here and click on the Label button, come down here, and I can add a label one of two ways. If I click, it just adds a thin little box, and what I need to do is just start typing. Okay. Or let me hit the Escape key to get rid of that. I can click on the Label button again, and then click and drag to size out my label box here, to stretch it out, and then just start typing. I can't format it right now because Access sees that I'm in the middle of typing text. And you can tell in the font group I can't change the colors, the font, anything like that until I'm done. And I can do that by hitting Enter on the keyboard. It solidifies the text within the label box, and then it allows me up here to go ahead and change it from Corbel to, let me type in A-R-I. And once I type that in, I want Arial. I don't have to finish typing. I can just hit Enter and it automatically applies it. And then I want to be able to change the font size from 10 to 20, hit Enter, and then I can do the auto fit. Double click over the right middle handle and it automatically fits to the text within the label box. Next, I want to be able to add an image over here in my header section. To do that, come up to the Controls group, and it's this button right here. It looks like a picture of a mountain with the sun above it. Image button, click on it, then hover over into the grid, and you see that little cross there? Wherever I click that cross, it's going to plop in my image. I want to do it just to the right of my book sales label. Click on it. Opens up the browse window. It says, okay, where's your image? Well, it's on my desktop. It's in the exercise folder, and there's the books image. Double click on it. Adds it. Of course, it's a little bit too big, so what I want to do is resize it. Let me go ahead and stretch this down a little bit. Hover over the bottom right handle there until it turns into a two-way arrow. Then I can click and drag and push that, resize the image in just a little bit and let go. Next, I want to double click on the image because I want to bring up the properties of it. I want to show you what the size mode property does to the image. You have three different types here. I'm on the Format tab. You can go to the All tab, and there's the size mode as well. Click on the drop down arrow and you got three options. You have Clip, Stretch, and Zoom. Selecting Stretch will stretch the image to fit the text box, Zoom to fit in the box, and Clip will clip the picture to fit within the smaller, looks like about a 1 inch by 1 inch box. So if I select Clip, it restores it to its original size, but because the size of the box is smaller than the original picture, it clips it off. If I go back to and select Stretch, it stretches the image to get as close to the border of the box as it can, versus Zoom, where it tries to actually fit or shrink the image within the box here. Close it out of the property sheet. I don't want this much gap or this much spacing between the header section and the details section, because when I click on the View button, too much of a gap. So right click and go back to Design View, hover over the top bar here, the details section, click and drag that bar and push it just right up underneath the book here. Now this book, when I click off in a blank area, has the color border. It's light blue. If I want to get rid of that color border, well, select your image here and then come up to the Controls group, click on the line color arrow and go down and select something transparent. And then I can click off in a blank area, and then when I click on the View button, you see no line goes around it here. Now, if for some reason your database is live and you're working on the header section of one of the forms, but everybody else needs the details of the forms to do lookups or to enter in data, and you don't want them to be viewing the header section because you're working on it, you can actually hide it. So just double click on the form header bar, come over here on the All tab, see where it says Visible, just double click that to No, and when somebody clicks and views the form, they can't see it. Go ahead and work on it. Then when you're ready, let me right click and go back to the Design View, just double click that to Yes, and then they'll be able to see the form header section. Last but not least is the conditional formatting. I want to be able to apply the condition to the total books sold And what I want to do is I want to be able to alert the front-end user when they're entering in clients or looking up clients that any client that has purchased books between, let's say, 10 and 20 books, I want to be able to make a little push on them to purchase over 20 books so they can get the discount. So the condition has to be between 10 to 20 books. If it's under 10, well, that's kind of a stretch, so we won't even worry about that. Select the text box, come up here to the Design tab to the font group, click on the Conditional button, and we'll set our first condition. Now the condition, it's already basically set up for me, is that the field value has to be between 10 and 20. Now if it's between that and meets the condition, what formatting do you want to apply to it? Right now it has nothing. Well, I'll make it bold. You can see it apply in my preview window here. Underline, let's fill in the box with yellow, and then make it red. That should be annoying enough. If I have additional conditions, I can click on the Add button and add another one, but I don't. So I'm going to go ahead and click Delete, and it'll say, well, which one do you want to delete? Condition 2, so I'll select 2 and click OK. Click OK here, and let's take it for a test drive. Click on the View button. Now we're looking for those total sales between 10 to 20 books. So let me click on the next record. There we go, 11. So I can tell the customer ID, of course, if bring in the customer name and say, look, hey, you purchased 11 books. If you just purchase 10 more, you can get a discount. Let's go through a few more here. Oh, there we go, record 14, 20. Don't forget that you can undo this by right-clicking, going back to the design view, selecting the field here, going back to conditional, and of course deleting that condition. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel, get notified of the latest videos, and for only $2 a month, you can have access to all my Microsoft Office training videos.